Welcome to the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast, where we celebrate the craft of poetry. Each week we feature interviews with incredible poets, songwriters, and artists, including Olivia Gatwood, Safia El Hilo, Dana Gioia, and many more. We also feature periodic submitted poetry episodes. Visit viewlesswings.com to submit your original poetry. I'm your host, James Moorhead, Poet Laureate of Dublin, California, and author of Canvas, Portraits of Red and Gray, and The Plague Doctor. Hit subscribe and follow me on Instagram or Threads at Viewless Wings. J.R. Rice is a writer, teacher, and spoken word artist born and raised in Oakland, California. He has a BA in creative writing and an English education teaching credential from California State University of Long Beach. While studying abroad in Greece, he was mentored by the author George Crane. His novella, Broken Pencils, earned second place for Best African American Fiction and Best Novella in the 2023 Speak Up Radio International Firebird Book Award Contest, an honorable mention in the 2023 San Francisco Book Festival Award for Best Wildcard Entry, and was a top finalist for Hidden River Arts 2023 Blue Mountain Award. His short story, Depends, Goodnight, made the shortlist for the 2023 Letter Review Prize for Short Stories. His travel essays, No Pasa Nada, earned third place in the 16th Annual Solus Award for Best Men's Travel Story. In addition to his writing accolades, he earned the Rookie of the Year Award at the 2005 National Collegiate Poetry Slam in Philadelphia. He was a semi-finalist in the 2023 Berkeley Poetry Slam Finals. J.R. Rice resides and teaches in the San Francisco Bay Area. J.R., welcome to the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast.
Hello, hello, hello.
I'm excited to see you again. I first saw you perform at a literary speakeasy event in San Francisco and was struck by the force of your performance in the face of the audience. How did you develop your fearless style of performance? And I ask that because I don't think people are born performers. It's a skill you learn. Maybe some people are more outgoing and some people are more introverted naturally, but there's still a lot of skill that's learned. So talk about how you develop your style of performance.
Yeah, of course. And thank you, James, for allowing me to be on your podcast and invite. I have a long journey that got me to where I'm at right now. Different stepping stones throughout my past. From like when I was in middle school, I used to rap. I used to have a little hip hop group with my friends, and we used to freestyle and we used to write a lot of songs. And that's when I first started getting into rhyming. And then towards college, that's when I actually started doing my first poetry slams at my college and at Cal State Long Beach. Long Beach?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was very fortunate enough to do, I was on the slam team for 2 years. I even participated in, just as it says in my bio, I was Rookie of the Year in the National Collegiate Poetry Slam way back in the day. Also in college, I took a little bit of theater and just small classes just because I just enjoyed it. All these little stepping stones kind of brought me into where I'm at right now. And also, in addition to that, me coming up as a teacher, I spent about 2 years as a substitute teacher in Long Beach and also in Los Angeles, dealing with some diverse groups of students. And as a substitute teacher, I would have to walk into a classroom full of these strangers, complete strangers who already have this attitude that they don't want me here. And so I had to do the best that I could to engage these complete strangers and control the room. And so oddly enough, my experience as a substitute teacher also helped me kind of gain the confidence and skill to just engage a room. So my teaching experience, college experience, all these, and my middle school experience, all these little stepping stones kind of brought me into where I'm at now. And so I'm very blessed, and I'm still feel like I'm evolving.
Well, how does your performing and the audience reaction to your poetry play a role when you're revising and editing a poem? If you do introduce a poem that's not potentially completely finished, not that any poem is ever truly finished, in front of an audience, what is that feedback loop? What do you learn from audiences?
I I listen to reactions. I gauge emotional reactions more so, and so when I don't do when I'm actually on stage and performing. That is the final version of my poems. But what I do revise is just my delivery and just certain points, like okay, this line has people laughing, or this line has people going ooh. So just put more emphasis on specific lines, and then also. Actually, yeah, I do go back and kind of revise things because when I find that certain parts of a poem doesn't really hit or connect with certain people, I go back and tweak it and see how can I get this to engage people. So when I'm on stage, I feel like the poem is mine. That's my version. And then when I'm able to deliver it and receive the audience reaction, then I tailor it towards like making it more public, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I think it's there's how you think things are going to go, and then what audiences decide, which can vary from audience to audience. So it's a signal that can be inconsistent, but it is surprising sometimes what people respond to. And at the end of the day, the audience is the one that decides how they react to your poetry. Absolutely. Yeah. So your performances include at some points the audience as part of the performance, which can be very effective and comes with a risk. Your poem Remains is one powerful example. It's impossible to know if or how an audience will engage. How did you develop this approach, and how has this evolved your style of performance and how you think about poetry when you're writing poetry, where you consciously are engaging the audience?
So thanks for bringing that up. That's one of my favorites. That's the poem I often do as a closer. Those who've actually attended my shows or see me at open mics and so forth, when I do like Remains, it's towards the end, it's a call and response, and I have the audience kind of repeat after me. I gained a lot of that kind of going back from teaching as well. And then also I was raised in the church and Sunday school, and just listening to the preacher and the choir and all that. So I kind of used that experience and brought it onto the stage. I will say when I first did it, or the first couple of times, it did not go very well.
Interesting.
It was very awkward. I was just like, hey, I am, and just silence. So I going back to what we were previously talking about, like I was like, okay, so maybe that doesn't work. So maybe I'll slow down, or maybe I repeat it this way. So it initially it didn't go very well, but I just had to keep trial and error.
I mean, that's a perfect example, since it's so effective. I've seen you perform that if your first performance doesn't quite go the way you expected, that doesn't mean the whole thing is bad. It just means you haven't figured out yet the right way to perform it that will work most with an audience. So don't be discouraged, poets, if you have an outing, just like comedians. I mean, comedians get to amazing sets by having a lot of, sets that fall flat.
Yeah.
Well, in Alien from your chapbook, I was, am, will be, you write, "No, you see, I am the unknown, the universe, the first descendant, the original man, the mysterious force before it all began and after it all ends." This book contains poems with passion, purpose, protest, and the grief of prejudice. When writing, how do you think about capturing passion while retaining the poetry, which is really hard to do? And I've been to open mics where you hear the anger, but it completely overwhelms the poetry, and maybe it's a cathartic thing for the poet to get out of their system, but as an audience, you kind of, there's something missing. So how do you get that balance between the power of the protest without it overwhelming the beauty of the poetry?
That's interesting. Well, at first, thank you for that quote. That's one of my favorite lines from that poem, and thank you for that. In terms of just the balancing between passion and poetry, that's interesting. conundrum. In terms of with me, I often get a lot of compliments and good feedback on my performance. A lot of people like I get a lot of just people like, wow, I felt that. But more of that as opposed to like, oh, I really like that certain line, or oh, that I like the writing. I think the balance comes with people actually reading the work versus people experiencing it and seeing it. That's hard. That's hard to.
I mean, you've
really
raised a really interesting thing here, which is the answer to that question could be very different when you're talking about a performance in front of people versus someone sitting down and reading a book. You know, there are almost like three forms that a poem can take, and they can be quite different. When I interviewed Olivia Gatwood, amazing performance poet, I recommend to people, if you have the funds, read the book and then listen to the audiobook, and you will experience it twice in different ways. Well, Ebony and Ivory very effectively juxtaposes a tightly scripted scene written in the form of a play to the fleeting impact on the audience. How did this piece develop? I really enjoyed that piece. It was cool.
But the original title was The Last Scene to a Romantic Slave Film. How did it come about? It's I wrote that a while ago, like about 10 years ago, when I was actually in an interracial relationship. I was dating a white woman who I really loved, but things got kind of complicated. And for somehow I manifested the end of our relationship. I know it's very morbid, but I manifested it into what came out as that scene in the book. I also wanted to experiment with form. So instead of narrating the story just in a typical lyrical way, I formatted it as a play.
Mm-hmm.
So the trippy thing about that poem is that I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't read it, but at the end of it, after the scene ends, the reader is able to actually see that, oh, this is actually like a movie, or this is actually like a stage play. And then the curtain closes, and then people don't actually, they see all this tragedy, they see all this pain, and see this regret and all this violence. But in spite of all that, they don't change their thinking. They leave with the same caps they wore coming in. I guess that with that message, that's what kind of drove the story. That was what inspired me. I love that piece, but I know also for people initially reading it, they could get very turned off from it.
No, I thought the form was very effective there, and I played with that too on a poem that I had a lot of structure and rhyming and meter, and it just wasn't working, and I turned it into a prose poem in the form of a screenplay. Short 9 scenes, and it worked really, really well. It was amazing how the form can bring something to life that isn't quite working in another form. So the long poem B is a compelling piece of storytelling that wills the reader to keep reading. Storytelling plays a strong role in many of your poems. How have you evolved this skill in your poetry toolbox?
I've always felt I was a storyteller. I'm not a very religious person. I am very spiritual. I do feel that I do believe in like past lives and reincarnation, and just our soul just being carried on throughout history. I won't go too much into that, but the point I'm getting at is that I feel like I'm a descendant of storytellers. I feel like I came from storytellers. I feel that probably long ago, there was a person kind of like me who was in the village telling stories to the people and teaching the kids and just engaging the community. And I feel like I'm just carrying that on just today, kind of just another manifestation of my ancestors, me telling my stories. But what I try to do with my stories is just bring heart, bring emotion, bring a message, and bring stories that I feel connect to the people, that are about the people. Yeah, and relatable. Hopefully they're relatable. My storytelling has developed a long way, and I'm very, very proud of it. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting how you talk about skills being passed down somehow, spiritually or otherwise, where I learned fairly recently that my grandfather on my dad's side wrote poetry every single day. His father wrote poetry. His father wrote poetry, and my grandfather joked that it's a Moorhead male curse to write poetry in a joking way. Now, I only found out about this after I'd been writing poetry for decades. And was it just a pure coincidence? Or was it actually something that snakes its way through the genetic code that we inherit that sparks this particular interest? Interesting. Yeah, I believe it's not totally random, that there's some sort of threads we get from our ancestors that somehow percolates through to us.
True.
I think it's more than coincidence. So I agree with you there. Well, in the poem Affirmations, which I heard you perform before reading the poem in your second chapbook, it's built on the chorus, so I write, I write, I write. So effective. So effective. In performance, this phrase is repeated with increasing intensity. How has the style of slam poetry informed your writing? And maybe for those not familiar with slam poetry, talk a little bit about if you're going to reach a level of real prodigy around slam poetry, what are the characteristics that make slam poetry a unique art form?
Yeah, of course. So I was actually first introduced to slam poetry with Def Poetry Jam on HBO with Russell Simmons and Mos Def, and that was really big. That was really popular while I was in college, and they even had some like shoots, not shoots, but they were doing like recruiting and stuff at my school in Cal State Long Beach. I even met one of the performers there, and it really inspired me. And so what differentiates like slam poetry from, I guess, I won't say regular poetry, but traditional poetry, is that it's meant to be read out loud. It's meant to be read out loud. Mm-hmm. It's meant to be performed in a way where the people are using their hands. People are using different tonation with their voice and all this stuff. So slam poetry, performance poetry is meant to be spoken out loud. It's meant to be received by the masses. Often when I'm writing, I'm reading it aloud to myself. Mm-hmm. And if it sounds good while I'm reading it out loud, then I know it's something good. So the same thing with my process of writing. I handwrite everything at first, and then read it out loud, and then transfer it onto. I type it up and so forth, and then I still read it out loud. So it's all about just how does it sound when spoken. That's when I know it clicks.
Yeah, and that's come up with multiple poets on this series of interviews. Is it's so important, even if it's awkward and uncomfortable, and you're just doing it to the mirror, to recite your poetry out loud, even if it's awkward to your cat, your dog, your family members, whether they want to hear it or not. You just learn things from your poetry when you recite it out loud that you will never get from just reading it back in your head on the page. It's just not the same thing.
True.
So building on the last question, several of the poems in your two chapbooks reference the importance of writing. In Illiteration, you write, answer A is unlikely a dream to a lonely writer who sets his mind free as a holy fighter in a rhyme spree, solely guided to reside at Shakespeare and Company, while a chorus of tourists keep bugging me like a swarm of buzzing bees, budging and nudging me to either leave or beat their asses. Why is writing so important to you and to communities where learning to write was actually prohibited years ago?
So that piece, Illiteration, I actually wrote that while I was in Paris at Shakespeare and Company. I was very fortunate enough to backpack around Europe, and while I was there, I was just writing every day, writing about my experience, trying to document what was going on with me, and also still using writing as my coping mechanism, trying to coping with my own stress and my own anxieties. So when I wrote that, I was in front of Shakespeare and Company, trying to just be still in this moment, and also just trying to enjoy the fact that I'm glimpsing this monument, this crazy historical place, and then I just saw all these tourists just walking by, just taking all these pictures. I don't even think they even knew anything about the place or wanted to buy any books, but they just wanted to take pictures. And they were just ruining my stillness. And so I wrote about it. that I was feeling stressed. I felt alienated, and I was feeling angry about these people. And so to cope with that emotion, I was writing. Going back to your question on the importance of writing, and what I stress in my whole book is that writing has kept me leveled. Writing has saved my life, and with my books, it's focused on my trip in Europe, or at least the character's trip in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going through all this crazy journey through love, through death, through grief, through all these crazy adventures. But throughout this whole crazy journey, writing has guided him. Writing has kept him whole. And same thing with me. Writing has saved my life. I suffer from a lot of different just mental stress. Also, I'm bipolar, and so with me dealing with my own mental disorder, writing has kept me leveled. It saved my life. Through my past panic attacks when I was younger, writing has done it for me. I want to push everyone else or use writing as a tool, even if it's just journaling. You don't have to write poetry, just journaling and writing out your feelings or writing out the day. Whatever's best.
The best way to write is to just write.
Yeah.
Just write. Yeah. Don't worry about the destination or the form or what you're trying to create. That can come later. Just the best way to start writing is just start writing, even if you're just describing something right in front of you, just as an excuse to write something down. You'll be amazed where it takes you. Absolutely. Well, a couple more questions before I pass the mic over to you. You are an extraordinarily active poet in the San Francisco Bay Area poetry scene. What advice do you have for poets looking for mics to perform at? And what advice do you have for poets fearing that very first time at a mic?
My advice is that people are not going to know you unless you put yourself out there, if you make yourself visible. A motto that I go by, and I have this written above my refrigerator, is dreams don't work unless you do. Dreams don't work unless you do. And so if you look at a lot of different acts and famous people who are coming up now, they started at the open mics. They started at these small gigs, and they started small and eventually built up and developed. Same thing with me. I still go to open mics. I'm very, very fortunate now that I do have a stable gig. I'm doing a monthly poetry showcase called Social Saturdays every first Saturday at Oak Cali Cafe in Oakland. And very, very fortunate. I've connected with a promoter. His name is Wid. He's through a thing to Talk About Productions. And he's believed in me enough to give me my own showcase and to curate the event with different artists. So my advice to people coming up, just keep going at it. My little things, no, I don't want to advertise for Eventbrite, but Eventbrite is the best place. Just go, I type in Eventbrite, type in open mics, just start from there. Another motto I go by, in addition to just dreams don't work unless you do, is just, I want to say is, don't live by fear. Don't live by fear. You can listen to that fear that tells you, oh, don't go to an open mic. That's not going to help. Like, oh, you're not ready to go to an open mic, or you're not ready to do that. You can listen to that and it will just hold you back. Or you can listen to the opposite of fear. That you can listen to the love, and you can say like, hey, I love myself. I believe in myself. I'm going to do this, and just push yourself to get out there. So don't live by fear, and dreams don't work unless you do.
You know, just building on what you said there are so many people in the world that will say no to you. You don't need to be one of those people. You have to be the person that says yes to yourself, because there are lots of people. Let other people say no. You make sure that you say yes to yourself, or you closed a door before it's even had a chance to open. So I totally agree. You just got to go for it. And I think at the open mics I run as being Poet Laureate of Dublin, most of the open mic nights, almost half the people have never, ever gone up to a mic before, and it's the ultimate safe space. Everybody there is rooting for you. There's no one there that's going to heckle you or try to bring you down. So it's truly a safe space. Well, as a teacher, what have you learned from your students, and what do you hope your students learn from you?
for myself, I learned to be more tolerant and more patient. I understand that everyone's different. Everyone comes from different backgrounds. Everyone has different pain. Everyone has different suffering. I've learned that with my students, they're dealing with problems and stresses that that I've never experienced, that you and I have never experienced, and I could argue that or we could argue that our generation is better, or this generation is not that good or not that smart, but they're dealing with a lot, and so I've learned to just be more compassionate with them, and that's something I also try to teach with them, to be more compassionate. I also believe that with my students and with these young people, they're at the same time they're coming up and with all this chaos going on in the world. Like, I also believe like this generation, I think this generation will bring the change that we need. I do believe that. I mean, a lot of older folks, a lot of people from our generation, they complain about the young people being all woke and stuff and all this different stuff. And I complain too. But I also believe these young people have an attitude, they have a belief, they also have this passion to make a change. Most of them do. And I also believe that once they do become adults and they do replace us, I am a strong believer that this generation will bring the change that we need. So I believe in my students. I deal with, I teach students at-risk youth in Oakland. And I teach at a continuation school where students from all sorts of different backgrounds, kids with ankle monitors, kids with kids who attempted suicide, from all sorts of different stages, different reasons. Yeah, as tough as a lot, the kids live really tough lives, but they also give me a lot of hope when I look at them and I teach them to see them persevere over all the challenges they dealt with, from homelessness to parents in jail, to dead brothers, to dead sisters, to dead cousins, all this stuff, and they still persevered. So I learned a lot from them, that like no matter how much you're going, no matter how bad it is, like you can still rise above it. So I learned a lot from my students, and I learn more than I actually teach, to be honest.
Well, that's a perfect opportunity to turn the mic over to you to read selections from your portfolio. I look forward to hearing your voice.
First sight. At first sight, she was art in motion. You see, her silhouette stood straight like 12:30. Her mouth curled into a sunrise. Her marble eyes shot brown darts. Boo, boo. Her stride tapped beats on beat against concrete as cool winds danced to her beauty. Everything, everywhere didn't matter because she was here. Hi was the first sound made from her lips. I was lost in a trance, unable to say shit. My mind rendered to a weakened state, watching our moments slowly drift away. You see, I wanted to say something to impress her. You know, something far clever than, hey, how you doing? You know, something better than, hey girl, what's your name? I wanted to say something like, your parents must have been Mrs. Nearly and Mr. Perfect. The 99% blessings sent to this earth's surface. Your cursive smile gives this poor man purpose, granting value to a future that was once rendered worthless. No. That's too deep. Maybe if I said something like, if I took your sweet face, put it in the oven for 30 minutes, take it out, ding, let it cool, you be a cutie pie. Nah. That's too corny. What I wanted to say was something like, let me get hit by a bus, die, and become reincarnated into your contact lenses, so I can live inside the heaven within your eyes. Nah. That's too dramatic. What I want to say was something like, I want to tattoo kisses along every scar left from a lonely tear. And once my lips have relieved your pain, I want to use my tongue as a wet brush and paint your orgasm. Nah. That's too assertive. What I really want to say was, you make me want to become a better man. Stay tall from wherever I stand. Make the best self I can so that I can be your best man. You see, that was the plan. But in reality, all I said was, damn. Once her smile relaxed, she simply walked past the curb without saying another word. Her car drove off the site. Skirt. She never looked twice at the man stuck at first sight. So, sweet angel of mine, please walk back into my life. But until then, I shall miss you, like Adam said when he left paradise. A 10-step guide on how to fall in love with an Italiana in Sevilla, Spain. Step 1. Formally meet the tall, long, brown-haired, bubble-butt Italiana at a friend's Japanese dinner party. Introduce yourself with a false Spanish name, such as Juanito Papacito. Leave within a half an hour of arriving while the sushi is still hot so that you can buy an eighth of weed from a Cuban rapper posted outside of a gay bar. Don't buy his album. Step 2. Find the Italiana the next night, twerking alone at an 80s discoteca called Utopia. Shout a conversation with her over Eurythmics' Sweet Dreams while staring deeply into her brown eyes. Fall under a trance like Romeo did at first glance of Juliet's awe and elegance as fate embraced the two soulmates to dance. And then confess under dim lighting, you make this black man blush. Step 3. Join the Italiana in collectively drinking 2 to 3 shots of Jägermeister, 3 to 4 rum and cokes, 4 to 5 Fresa mojitos, and 6 to 7 cups of melted ice. Accompany her outside and take a cab with an Arab driver who has a beard made of eyelashes. Arrive back at your piso around 4:06 a.m., strip naked to your socks, and love wrestle with her in a twin-size bed without awakening your 2 flatmates. Just ignore the kicks against the wall. Attempt with consent to make mad, passionate, softcore sex in spite of whiskey dick. And then feel your heart skip a beat when she speaks, I just want you to hold me. Step 4, add her on all social media. Stalk her on all social media. Step 5, treat Italiana to a nice dinner outing, but call it a cena to sound impressive. Ask her about Naples, Pompeii, pizza, The Godfather, Super Mario, and any other racial stereotypes you can remember. Notice her tan face growing red upset because you paid the check when she insisted on splitting the bill, and don't bother explaining why it's called going Dutch. Except when she calls you a stupid American. Step 6. Embrace Italiana's curiosity and open-ended questions about living Black in America. Hear her empathize with the non-white people's struggle in spite of knowing her people's history contributed to systematic racism. Listen to her glorify the Ashanti, the tribe, not the singer. Explain why Black is beautiful and clarify how you possess the features of the original man. And rejoice when her voice imitates Eazy-E and chants, "Fuck Columbus, fuck Columbus." Step 7, dance with Italiana on an empty calle in the rain as if you're the Black Gene Kelly, twirling around a pink Hello Kitty umbrella above her head. Tell her drunk, honest lies in spite of it being day number 5, like, you make me immortal with your kiss, 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 or let's transcend beyond friends. And let's not forget the classic. You make me want to become a better man. And feel the weight of your jaw drop after she admits having a 43-year-old boyfriend back in Naples whom she has had a relationship with for 3 years. Step 8, delete her from all social media. Delete your browser history and clear your cache too. Step 9, distance yourself from those intimate memories when the Italiana made you feel alive, and remind yourself of the little annoyances, such as the gap in her front teeth and her 9.5 toes. True story. Remember what Gucci Mane said, girls are like buses. Every 15 minutes, one's running. And that there are a million other fishes in the sea, so you can't fall weak for an Italian woman during your last 2 weeks in Spain. And remind yourself that life will feel better once you let it go, let it go. I can't hold it back anymore. Step 10, return home. Accept the past. Make amends with those in the present and realize that time heals all wounds. And then smile at the Italiana's text sent a week later. Don't cry that it's over. Be happy that it happened. Smiley face. SHCs. Or, if you're happy and you know it, then you're stupid. I'm in a good mood, but I hate happy couples who do stupid things like holding hands and singing songs and laughing loud and finish each other's life sucks. Stop being happy. That's stupid. Dear happy couples, what's your secret? Do you pretend to enjoy love and bliss in spite of temptation and the compromise of commitment? Do you know that being happy is for stupid people? So I guess that just makes you a stupid, happy couple. I'm in a pleasant mood because I like regular couples, but I hate happy couples who do stupid things like talk about their day after spending the whole day together. Maybe I'll feel better if I try to guess what is, where is, why don't I have happiness? So I just stare at happy couples that have stupid things like communication, trust, and honesty. But honestly, when I see all three join forces, I get so mad, explosive, that I just hate everything, especially SHCs. Stupid, happy couples. Sometimes I ask myself, why do you hate happy couples? Self, are you still ill from past festering wounds? Self, are you jealous that these stupid people might be happy? And you're a smart person who's actually depressed. I hate self just as much as I hate parking meters and locked bathrooms and self-care. Maybe I need self, like I need love. Maybe I need self-love. Maybe I need to stop self-hate and my self-destructive ways. Wait. Do happy couples hate other happy couples? That's stupid. I want to stop feeling unhappy, even when I see happy couples do stupid things like air kisses. Stop kissing the wind. Air doesn't want your kisses. I want a life that's fun and not funny. Even when I hear happy couples say stupid words like, I love you. And then I answer back, I love you too. I'm in a splendid mood, like the sweetener, even though I hate happy couples. And listen, I don't use the word hate very often, but I hate that I'm too shy, too scared, too ashamed to show vulnerability to someone willing to know me. I know fear, for in the past, she hurt me. So I stare and smile at happy couples, though I don't care if they drown, because I was once like them, but now I'm single and proud. Say it loud. I'm single and proud. Say it loud. I'm sorry. I think no. Maybe yes. I love stupid, happy couples. So this is the best apology they will ever deserve.
Awesome. Thanks very much. And of course, for those listening, you got a good 60 to 70%, but you got to go check out JR in person for the remaining 30 to 40%. So one last question. What are you working on now?
I am finalizing my book. I have a novella coming out next year. Right now, I am finalizing the last revisions of it, but it's called Broken Pencils. So I'm actually going to switch it up a little bit. I'm not moving on, but this isn't poetry. It's a fiction book. It's coming of age, dark coming of age novella. I don't like to do comparisons, but just to give you an idea of what it is, it's kind of like the Black version of Catcher in the Rye, more modern, and set in the Bay Area, specifically in Oakland and San Francisco. So the book is based on the same character from I Was, I Am, I Will Be, Jonah Tarver, except this is him as a teenager. So Broken Pencil is actually the prequel to I Was, I Am, I Will Be. It taking place when Jonah is a teenager. So Jonah Tarver is a troubled Oakland teenager grappling with his parents' troubled marriage, his own mental disorder, and the weight of his best friend's death, and embarks on a desperate quest to find meaning in life. On his 18th birthday, coinciding with his senior prom, Jonah, along with his girlfriend, Tanisha, his best friend, Trayvon, and a group of peers, spirals into a night of reckless indulgence in drugs and alcohol in the vibrant city of San Francisco. As tensions escalate and emotions run high, Jonah finds himself thrust into a gripping 12-hour journey through the dark underbelly of San Francisco's nightlife, forever altering his perception of the world. Will Jonah uncover the purpose he so desperately seeks? Or will he discover that life, like broken pencils, may have no point? Dun, dun, dun.
Awesome. Excited to see that book come to life. And
June 18th, 2024. I'm finalize my manuscript, give it to my editor, working on the cover. Keep everyone posted. But yes, they stay looking out for that. June 18th.
Exciting. Well, JR, thank you so much for sharing your poetry and your voice on the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast today.
Thank you. This has been a pleasure. This has been great. This is my first podcast, by the way.
Oh, congratulations. Yes. Awesome.
I'm honored.
Totally enjoyed talking to you. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you.
The Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast is written and produced by James Moorhead. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube at Viewless Wings. Hit subscribe to be notified of every episode of the Viewless Wings Poetry Podcast and spread the word with your poetry community.